issue, I noticed that you have made yourself a sports psychologist for the purposes of this assignment, and
Yes,
that's one of the ways that you can have a little fun with an assignment like this when you're trying things out. So this is a an application for to get funding so that you can do mindfulness-based training for registered social workers. Okay, and that's what this project title says. Very good. Now your project summary. You talk about the aims to introduce the mindfulness-based stress reduction program. Um, say stress levels are on the rise. Helping social worker cope with stress and mindfulness can lead to optimism and job performance and higher levels of job satisfaction. So that's good. Um, One of the things, though, that I notice is there's a lot of statements about this, but this project summary should really summarize everything in the project. So it should not, it should summarize, first of all, the need for this, which you do say something about, but then it should talk a little bit about, well, what are we going to do? What's, when we do this mindfulness-based stress reduction program, what's it going to be doing? So the thing is, when you get down to your program objectives and methods, you're going to summarize that up here. When you get down to your basically every part of this application is first summarized up here. And so what it does is just that when the person's reading the application to see whether they're going to consider it, they're going to read the summary, and based on the summary, they're going to make a decision, do they even read anything further?
Okay.
And, so you need to really use that summary to summarize everything in the project, as well as be a bit persuasive and say why this is important. And you have to do that at the beginning, or else the person reviewing the application may not even read anything further.
So that's like same like the introduction of the essay.
Yeah.
Or a snapshot of
right.
the whole thing.
And happening. So, and only you're going to have a little bit more detail than this. Now, many times they will have a word limitation on this. And so part of it, what you're going to do is you're going to write the summary of the program. Then you do a word count. You find out that you're way past the word count that they are requiring. And then you start editing and make decisions about, okay, how do I summarize things very concisely? Because usually they won't give you enough, enough words to use to summarize it the way you want to. But that's where knowing how to write concisely and how to actually make sure that everything that's important goes in, that'll be a really helpful thing for you to do. Now, the needs assessment is social workers' increased level of stress because of the nature of the job. Good point. Based upon interviews conducted with local social workers. That's one point, and I'm going to, and there's no having a workforce that is stress-free, mentally balanced can only lead to improved work performance. One of the things that's helpful is that for these two statements, interviews conducted with local social workers, they use fast food, coffee, pop, and things like that. You want to give a little bit of information about, okay, was this a published study? Was this something that you did? In other words, what's the methodology that was used this? How come, you're reporting results without really giving much information about how those results happened. Here's a statement, having a workforce that's stress-free, mentally balanced can only lead to improved work. Okay, that makes sense. It's a stronger statement if it's based upon literature that's shown that. So one of the things in both these sections is having citations and explaining the research, so to speak, that your statements come from can really strengthen your point, the points that you're making. Sometimes applications, if you use citations and you have references to go with those citations, they say, well, you have to do it within the word limit. Other times they may allow you to put an appendix onto the application that lists all the citations that you use. So your reference list can be added as an appendix. You read the instructions for the funding application to know what to do. But using citing the literature that provides evidence for the points you're making will strengthen the point.
Okay.
Okay, so the program objective and methods. This is, again, this is a beginning to help social workers in coping with stress. You can strengthen that by saying social workers will better cope with stress is the objective. So it's not, your objective isn't just to help them. Your objective is that they will actually be able to do it.
Oh,
And that's a
okay.
stronger objective so that they will cope better with stress as opposed to, because when you say, well, I'll help them cope better, that doesn't say whether they're actually going to actually cope better or not.
And just how to, when it comes to phrasing the objective, is it important to start it with like to help, or can I just make a
No, I think that you could
general
say
statement?
something like social workers will cope better
Better. Okay.
with stress. And what that does is it's a full sentence, and an objective is what is going to be happening when we're successful.
Okay.
That defines, it's kind of measurable.
Yeah.
And that's why this is a better, this is a more measurable,
Okay.
a better statement
So like an
about an
outcome.
objective, because it does talk about an outcome.
Okay.
So you mentioned they'll participate in the program. Here's some of the activities we'll include. Those meditation, breathing, imagery techniques, group discussion. This is really good. Again, these are the types of things that would strengthen your summary to put this kind of stuff in there. Okay, you're going to do the program. It's 8 weeks, 4 sessions per week. Each session will be 1 hour in length. That's a lot of time when you talk about 4 hours a week for 8 weeks. Now that may be the way the program goes, and the thing is, but I know that when I was thinking about it before, it didn't occur to me that way. When I think of an 8-week program, I'm thinking about once a week for 8 weeks, maybe 1 to 2 hours. That's kind of what I had in mind. So that's a good thing to be sure that you clarify when you are writing your summary and when you're defining this. Now it is clarified here, so you know exactly what you have. In order to evaluate it, they're going to complete a pre and post test. That's good. You may want to say a little bit something more about the Kentucky Inventory of Mindfulness. First of all, you want to cite it.
Okay.
You want to say, well, why are you choosing that? Why is this helpful? Why would you expect that that's going to show differences between a pre-test and a post-test? Saying something about the instrument itself can be a real helpful thing to do at this point. It'll strengthen your evaluation.
Shall I also mention like a reliability or
Yes.
validity of the tool?
You can say that, this is, you cite the literature, and you can say that this is, reliabilities are generally given as an alpha.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can report that so that people will know what that means. On the
Okay.
other hand, the person who is reading this is probably not familiar with this at all.
Yeah.
Giving a little bit of information about it will strengthen your application. You're also saying to help social workers develop a better life-work balance. You're talking about a group discussion. One of the things that's important here, though, is, okay, as a result of that group discussion, how is that going to help them above and beyond doing the actual program? So you're adding another piece in it. And you're going to, this is kind of like the same goal. You want to know how this is going to be different. So in other words, if all they did was do this, is have this, this MBSR program without this, well, we would hope that they would still develop a better life-work balance. How is this going to give something beyond that? And that you may need to take some time to think about so that your objective can actually highlight what will this provide in addition, because you're adding an extra hour in every week.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is then you want to have some additional benefit as a result of just this discussion. And so the other thing is you're going to write down points during the discussion, you may want to think about, okay, how does writing down the points from the discussion, how's that going to evaluate whether it's helping or not? This is an evaluation where everybody's going to say, okay, this is where, my level of stress and my ability of mindfulness at the beginning,
Yeah.
this is what at the end. This could be stronger in terms of if you're going to discuss things, what's the purpose of the discussion? How are we going to know that something is happening better at the end than at the beginning? So this could probably, you need a little bit more thinking about it. Maybe you can go back to the literature that you've cited and see, has anybody else used this? Why did they use it? What benefit did they get from it? How did they measure that benefit? You may be able to have a way of kind of identifying that by looking at the literature. So that's an important thing because right now
Okay.
it doesn't really add very much to the application. It's extra time, and so you're wondering, well, why are you having it? Now, have you noticed that the project continuity and the applicant's project experience are shaded because although those are important aspects of applications, when people are new at doing applications, these are a little bit harder to do.
Yeah.
But you do want to think about, okay, once you've done this, how can you continue it for other workers? How can you continue doing it when the funding runs out? Maybe it can be that your agency, if they see that it works, will be able to find some way to fund it themselves. They just have to know that it's going to work. And so that's what you're trying to do. If you don't have experience doing these kinds of things, then it's probably a good idea if you're going to do a funding application to find somebody that does has experience and then they become a partner with you so that you have somebody that has experience. Otherwise, you have a weak application because you've never done this before. Yeah. I do like what you put down here in the professional ethics. Although one of the things you say, discussion will stay confidential. Well, since the discussion happens in the group in general, everybody who's participating in that's going to have, so it's not really confidential because everybody, all the members of the group that are taking this program are going to hear what everybody discusses. So the confidentiality, you may say that you're not going to present this when you write a report on it. You're not going to report what specific people say. There's other things you can say, but it's about what confidentiality means in this. But if you've got 5 people taking this, 5 people are going to know what the other people say, so it's not confidential in that way.
Okay.
Now, they can leave the program anytime if they don't feel comfortable. That's a good statement. Somebody's available on site to assist if they need to. Those are good statements. Those actually come from research ethics. Those are really good things for you to put in here. They fit very well in this particular section. The budget, again, is something else that's more difficult to come up with, so that's why it's shaded. We don't really need signatures at this point.
Okay.
So there's some really good things. You've got a really good start with this, and there's some things you can look at that will help you kind of consider how you can strengthen the application. Okay?